Hello. Oh, I'm scared and I love it. It feels good. I love your work. Thank you so much. It happens for me and I believe it so much. English is not my first language. And sometimes when I hear people talk or movies or music, I don't really understand everything they say, but when you speak, I understand everything. Like,
well, that's a credit to where you are vibrationally more than it is to the words that Esther is finding for us. It means you're in the receiving mode. It means that our sequential delivery is being received by you. It's good.
For years, I've been, connecting to this kind of energy and things are happening for me. It wasn't happening. Like I can say I went from nada to Prada, for example. And even when I wasn't there, I was thinking, I was keeping listening to that. Things are working out for me no matter what.
Yes.
Like, when you order food in the restaurant and it takes forever, and then you go to the bathroom and they come back and the food is there. So I was like, this doesn't feel good. I want to go hang out somewhere else. I want to think something else because this is hurting me. So I keep doing that kind of stuff and that kind of stuff.
Here's the thing that we really want you to hear. Don't ask yourself to unnaturally feel a way that the circumstances don't match. We're not asking you to be in an unpleasant situation and feel pleasant about the unpleasant situation.
It's like, okay, it sucks, but I'm okay. I'm like, what I do, I have these really nice sneakers and they taking me everywhere and they're so comfortable. Stuff like that. They're little, but they help me to shift.
Well, that really is the answer, isn't it? To find something to focus upon that allows you connection. Because when you're connected, it doesn't matter where you are. There's benefit everywhere, isn't there?
Yes.
And that really is the definition of unconditional love. It's finding love anyway, regardless of the conditions. And then the conditions are easier to take and the unwanted ones are shorter in your experience. Short to non-existent. In other words, there's contrast in everything, but you can improve. The contrast can go from terrible to a little less terrible, or it can go to wonderful to a little less wonderful. Contrast is contrast. Everything is relative, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually love it. And there was a part of me, like I always wanted to help people, right? Or make them feel better. And today I feel like that's none of my business.
You are still an uplifter to the very core of your being, but you might be wise enough to know that they have to help themselves, and that if they aren't in that modality, then there's not much that you can do that will make much of a difference.
Yeah, but you told me that by listening to your audios. Yes. I really have to say I learned that because of you.
You learned it from life that our words matched.
Yeah.
So now what?
This is not my question. This was what, I am so grateful, I am so grateful for how science and things are happening, synchronicity, and I'm like, oh, there's the answer. It is all happening, and I love it. It's
not
so
a particle
beautiful, right?
Evidence to the contrary of these laws.
But my question is like,
yes.
At night when I go to sleep, I have this fear that goes through my body, like I'm scared. And I know it doesn't gonna make sense right now because I'm like, why was I scared last night? But I feel this, and sometimes I gotta go to the bathroom or if the door is open, I have to lock it because I feel there is something there and it scares me. Or I go to the bathroom and I get these tingles and I get so scared and I have these fears.
Let's talk about it just with a little more definition. So, because you said that when you sat down, you said, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I was feeling, my heart was racing so fast.
And we wanted to say to you, this is not fear, it's anticipation. What that sensation when you sat down was a realization at both conscious and unconscious levels for you, a realization that you are where you are, which is in a good place, and that you're going to move to another place. Whenever you are on the brink of or on the verge of energy moving toward what you want, there sometimes is a more acute awareness of where you are. It's sort of like a making note of where I am because it's about to change in a very positive way. We want to make that distinction with you. Can you feel that about the experience of sitting here?
That you just explained it, I got it.
All right. So now
when I'm
wait. So there's another thing that we want to ask you, because a lot of times people fear representing themselves the way they mean to, or they fear what others in the room or audience may think about them. They are in the receiving mode of past experiences where maybe there's been something that embarrassed them. So was it any of that?
Probably.
Because you didn't dwell on it too long, and because it wasn't the dominant part of your vibration, didn't that feeling lift from you almost immediately? That feeling of fear did not stay with you. As we began to visit, that feeling of fear left you, and instead you began confidently expressing what it was you wanted to talk about. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So the thing that we want you to focus upon with both that and the conversation about being fearful at night, I want you to hold this thought for just a moment before we move into that part of the conversation. Energy is in motion, and you are eternally, always, 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 from your non-physical and your physical perspective, all of us are always moving forward. So there is always this relationship between where we are and where we're going. The way you feel is singularly only. We're trying to make it harder for you to understand us because we're making up words. It's only about whether you're looking toward where you're going or whether you're looking at where you're moving from. That's what those emotions are mostly about. If you are looking forward where your inner being is, where all of that confidence and knowledge and intelligence and certainty and power and balance and energy that creates worlds is, when you are gazing in that direction, then that's the way you feel. And it translates emotionally into enthusiasm and passion and eagerness. But if you are oriented more toward, I'm moving forward from this, and this is what's dominant in your vibration, then there's that extra strong pulling that you're pulling against that translates into discomfort to some degree or another. So now think about it. Think about how these two subjects are very much the same. You came up here to have a conversation with your inner being and with infinite intelligence, just like when you go to sleep at night. Because when you go to sleep at night, that's exactly what happens. You release your consciousness of anything that might be bothering you, and you move into the energy of who you really are. Now, whether you remember it when you wake in the morning, that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day and a whole other book. But can you feel that when you slumber, you really release resistance? But there's something about you that, just like when you came up here, you're evaluating with too much fervor where you stand in the midst of that motion forward. Do you acknowledge that when you sleep, that momentum subsides?
The momentum what?
Momentum subsides. Your physical senses aren't aware of what's going on, and so your energy does move. And so what we're talking about is you are aware of energy movement, and sometimes you cling to what is because you're not quite trusting of where that energy is moving to. Do you meditate?
Every day.
Have you ever experienced an out-of-body experience?
I have, yes.
We're asking all of you this. Have you ever been on what felt like that verge of an out-of-body experience?
What?
The verge of it, where you can feel yourself almost ready to go?
Yes.
Have you? But you're not quite going? And there's a part of you that's not really sure if you want to go because there's so much unknown in it. It's the same sort of thing. It's a lack of trust based upon a lack of knowledge of how secure you really are in terms of the greater scheme of things.
You just describe everything right now.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, pretty much. Very well.
That's really good. Enough?
No, why? Now I'm comfortable. And it feels great. And of course, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is the space.
And you're comfortable because you're now in the vibration of trust of who you are. There's no resistance in your being. All things feel open and possible. And so now what? Now what? Now what? So if we were standing in your physical shoes, this is when we would bask to increase the momentum of it. It's not when we would ask some question to which we don't know the answer. Our impulse would be to keep this feeling going, not use the advantage of this feeling to solve some problem. Can you feel the wisdom in that?
Oh, wow.
This is a leading edge conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
So, get out. So if you can take away from this conversation that every subject is really two subjects, wanted and absence of it, and then you can just ask yourself the question whenever you're focused upon something that you want, are you really focused upon what you want, or are you focused upon the absence of what you want and using the absence of it as a justification for having it? Because if you're using the absence of it as your justification for having it, you can't have it. And isn't that terrible? Now, you see, your mother, your grandmother, especially your grandmother, a lot of people who love you have trained you to really need something before they give up the goods. But we're talking about a universal flow of abundance and well-being. We're not talking about the paltry, minuscule, little piddly stuff that can be doled out by other humans from their bank account to yours. We're talking about you putting yourself in a vibrational position where you can receive the abundance that is showering down upon you all day, every day, by tuning your frequency to a receiving mode where you are aware, and therefore you have good timing. You're in the right place at the right time. You're in a place where you can hear it. How often, you know this, have you known someone who needed some encouragement or maybe even some advice that you were pretty good at giving? And they're asking, and you're telling them exactly what to do. And you know it works because you did it. And you know it will work for them. You just know it. It's one of those things that is just consistent. And you speak the words, and they argue for their limitations. And you speak the words, and they argue for their limitations. And you speak the words, and they argue for their limitations. And you speak the words, and they argue for their limitations. Because they're not hearing you, you might as well not speak your words. Because if they're not in the receiving mode, which they never are when they're hurting, they're never in the receiving mode when they're in the problem mode. So here are some words that you could give to anyone who's in that problem mode. And it doesn't matter what their problem is. I love you so much, but there's no help for you. And so, dear heart, I think I will stop wasting my time by trying to talk you off the ledge. And I'll just let you go over the ledge. Because there's something about you going over the ledge that might get your attention. Oh, that's too harsh. Let's start again. Dear heart, I love you so much, but nothing that I can say right now is going to be of any benefit to you because you don't have your ears on. You can't hear what I'm saying. In fact, the fact that I know the answer to your problem makes you not really even like me that much. I can feel resentment coming up all around this conversation because you think I'm a know-it-all because I do know it all. And if you were in the vibrational vicinity, you would know that I know it all and you would listen. But in the very dysfunctional state of being that I find you in, maybe we could say that better. Anyway, we're making a strong point with you that whether it's them or whether it's you, if you're not in the receiving mode, then there is really no point in offering words to try to fix it, because words really don't teach anyway. It's life experience that teaches. But if you have an understanding of what the receiving mode is anyway, in other words, when we talk about the receiving mode, when we speak of the receiving mode, what we're really talking about is you being in a place where you can hear or sense or know or receive guidance from your broader perspective. But in order for you to even begin listening for that, you've got to understand that there is guidance coming to you that you have access to and that you are worthy of.